Welcome to the Rainmaker Podcast, a show for people who are obsessed with all things marketing. I'm your host, Veronica, Romney, certified master marketer, international keynote speaker, workshop facilitator, and the author of a new book called Identity Marketing. Each week, I interview rainmakers from brands big and small to pull back the curtain on what's actually working in marketing today. We dig into real-life wins and losses and their very real consequences, and get into spicy discussions of marketing controversies and opposing philosophies. This is the real marketing thought leadership you've been looking for in your ears on demand. This is the Rainmaker Podcast. Welcome back to the Rainmaker Podcast. I'm really excited to have this next episode with my guest, Brian Mikula, who is not only is he a marketer, not only is he an entrepreneur and founder of his own company, but he's also a teacher. And one of the topics that he talks about most prolifically on LinkedIn is personal brand and the reasons why everybody, regardless of position in an organization or otherwise, should be investing in their personal brand and internal reputation. I thought he's just a really great voice for this. And in fact, as a testament to his own personal brand, it was one of his spicy kind of LinkedIn posts on why employees should have personal brands that got my attention, that then I extended the invitation for him to be on the podcast. So this entire conversation is going to be around personal brand. We also disclose how his process for producing content on a daily basis versus how I do it every single week. So if you want to get into the mechanics of how we create content, this is going to be a really fun one and you want to take some notes. So please welcome my guest, Brian. Brian, welcome to the podcast.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Veronica. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Actually, what a testament to your personal brand, sir, because I think it was one of your LinkedIn posts that was recommended or shared or that I saw somebody comment on and I was like, ooh, spicy take. And the next thing you know, I'm like, come on the podcast. So what a testament to the strength and the effort and the intentionality behind your personal brand that now we're friends and you're on this podcast. So
I think to your point, I put out a piece of content on LinkedIn about, how employees should be building their personal brands and how businesses should be, championing their employees as well. I think that's how we found each other.
It's fantastic. And man, I was telling you right before I pushed record, I'm like, I wish I would have interviewed you literally 24 hours ago because last night I just finished teaching the MBA. Well, it was like some undergraduate students who are majoring in entrepreneurship, which always makes me chuckle, and then MBA students. So it was a kind of a combo class, but I was teaching them my identity marketing framework and they're like, how do we apply this to our personal brand? I'm like, so you are also a marketer like I am. You're a founder of a tea company, which is fascinating to me, but you're also a teacher. You're invited to speak to college students as well. It's fun, right? Like being with the next generation. I feel old saying that.
Oh my God.
But what's been your experience teaching, being in the room with these undergraduates, graduates? I'm just curious from your point of view.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, actually, before we jump into this, I actually wanted to give it a shout out to you.
Oh, okay.
Because when I first came up, when we first started chatting, I looked at your profile, everything. And one of the things I noticed is you've got a bunch of different things going on. And they call it the triple threat where it's a singer, dancer, and an actor.
Okay.
I looked at that. I was like, well, I think Veronica is a quadruple threat in the business terms because you've got coach, you're a personal public speaker, you've got a book, you run a podcast. So I was like, hey, in the business sense, I feel like that should be called a quadruple threat.
Oh, thanks. That's nice. I also think it means I'm crazy, but thanks. We'll take it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Triple threat, quadruple threat. Okay, well, let's talk about our shared, because we're both I guess multi-creatives or multifaceted personal brands individually. When you're teaching these students, like I was last night, and the main professor, Ted, I'm like, you remind me of Ted Lasso, but he's such a great guy. He's like the heartbeat of the UNC program.
Yeah.
And he was, he kind of, again, I have my Latina flair. And so sometimes I get riled up and then he got riled up. I'm like, what's happening? But he was just kind of giving it to them. He's like, you guys, basically, he didn't say imposter syndrome, but it was along those lines that, until you start believing in yourself, then it's hard to put yourself out there without that confidence or that swagger to some degree. I don't know if you agree or not, but I'm curious when you're teaching these students, what's the bulk of their questions pertaining to their personal brand? What's their paradigm? Do they believe it's a waste of time? Are they worried to do it that it would be a conflict of interest for their employer? What's the strife around their personal brand for you?
Yeah, that's a great question. And So what I see the biggest barrier that I see
Mm-hmm.
people face is like just the fear of judgment.
Mm.
A lot of people, they don't like public speaking, and hand in hand when you're putting out content of yourself on LinkedIn or whatever platform you choose,
Yeah, yeah.
honestly, number one thing is like, okay, what are people going to think of me? So when I speak to students or when I speak to anybody, I go through a framework of like all these different steps on how to get started.
Okay.
One of the steps I always have in there is to overcome the fear of judgment.
Okay.
And that's something that's super powerful that I try to get people to overcome. But yeah, it's interesting with these students though, because I'm in the classroom and I'm talking to them. The first thing I start off with is the benefits of building your personal brand.
Yeah, you gotta
All
sell
the
them the
different
idea.
exactly. You got to sell
Yeah.
them the idea to start, right?
Yeah.
So get their interest, and from there, again, there's so many different people that can benefit from this. But for
Mm-hmm.
students in particular, like I tell them, like currently before COVID, your competition was the city that you're in, because
True.
most jobs were in person,
True.
and you'd be applying next to those people. COVID happened, and now it opened up, so a lot of jobs are remote now. So now your competition is not just in your local city; your competition is now all of the country. So your competition has 10x, if not more. So it's
Yeah.
like now, how do you make yourself stand out? How do you make your name known? And if you don't do this, getting the job is going to be extremely difficult
Ooh, yeah.
after
True.
graduating.
That's like daunting. I like immediately felt sweaty. I'm like, what's happening? Like, like your competition 10x.
Yeah, it's true.
Okay, so let's talk. It's funny, fear. This is interesting to me. Because whether it's fear, imposter syndrome, I think it's all around the same sentiment of like, ugh. Just the internal strife, the internal turmoil is really the barrier as opposed to just the external like application or like the strategies, the tactics, the hacks.
Yeah.
And it's funny because like I'm not a mindset coach. I don't really identify as a coach. I prefer consultant more.
Consultant.
But in that capacity of guiding people, accompanying people, facilitating, I'm blown away how often it goes into mental warfare.
Yeah.
Like I just did a big consultation project in Calgary last week. I mean, this company is already 50 million. They're trying to go to 100 million. Like you can flex.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I kid you not, the barrier to my relationship marketing strategy that I was laying out was their feeling of imposter syndrome or unworthiness, or I haven't done that big of a project. I'm like, what? So, and this is somebody who was in their 60s. So like what's crazy about fear is that it doesn't discriminate on gender, age, qualifications, experience. It's wild. I see it permeate in all sectors and categories.
Yeah.
So how do you get over it? I'm not a mindset coach. I don't want to be a mindset coach, but how do you help people start to overcome or reframe that relationship with fear?
Yeah. Well, I love the way you put that, because a lot of this stuff, like you said, the barrier is fear, right? But for a lot of people too, like imposter syndrome, you touched on that. And a lot of this is like, a lot of people say, they're like, what do I have to offer? Like if I'm going to start posting on LinkedIn, building my brand, building a name for myself, like I don't really have much to offer. But I'm like, honestly, it doesn't matter what age you are. Realistically, you've lived a life so far.
Mm-hmm.
And in that, you've learned a ton of life lessons. You've learned some things about your expertise along the way. And even if you're just learning about something, whether it's marketing, sales, whatever that avenue is, as you actively learn, these are new things that you've gained knowledge on. You can put that out into the universe. So on LinkedIn, you can start writing posts about that. And the thing with that is that there is going to be somebody who has not learned that yet. So whatever it is you're learning, you can put that out there. And there's somebody who has not learned that yet, who's going to see your post and gain value from it. They're going to look at it and be like, wow, that's something I didn't know yet. And when you catch somebody on LinkedIn saying, wow, that's something I didn't know yet, you've immediately went up a level in their mind.
True.
And that's the same thing for anything. Is like the biggest thing is that I try to drill in is that everybody's got something that of value that they can teach people, that they can bring out into the world. Whether it's big or whether it's small, somebody, even if it's 2% of the people that see your content, if 2% gain value from it and it makes an impact on them, then to me, you've won.
Yeah.
That's the message I try to put through to everybody.
Okay, this reminds me. So when I worked for like, in one of my iterations of my career, I worked with Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi. He is one of like a trainer, facilitator, or whatever.
So cool, by the way.
Thanks. It's but it was also like we got selected December 2019. and we were supposed to be on stage's crew. And then the world shut down in March. So I was like, wah, wah. So then I just was like stuck on Zoom calls or Zoom, these colossal events on Zoom and for hours, 8 hours plus. So it wasn't quite the dream. But the one thing that one of the lessons in that experience, Dean talks about this quite a bit, where he's like, there's the difference between knowledge expert and knowledge brokers. I would also say broker could be redefined as a curator. I think you do this very well. So like, I think sometimes the pressure with owning your personal brand is you're like, I better know what I'm talking about and I better be an expert. And you compare yourself to the Seth Godins and the Gary V's, like these are experts and I better like, and talking about to a college kid, like they haven't earned their stripes. They haven't clocked in their 10,000 hours of mastery. They're still in learning mode, not in practice or like doing mode that you get in the workplace sometimes. And so it's really daunting to think that like, in order for me to own my personal brand, I better have some level of expertise versus what I think you're sharing. I think is brilliant too. It's like, you don't have to be an expert to still be perceived as wildly valuable if you're just a broker or a curator of other people's expertise. Yeah. Like Tim Ferriss, when he wrote that book, like Tools for Titans, or like, I mean, any book on financial, anything that Tony Robbins has written, he's not a financial expert, but he knows everybody who's ever made buckets of money, and then he takes their information, puts it in a book.
And I've read that book.
Yeah, and that's exactly, he's curating.
Yeah.
Right. But what I want to point out that you said that I think people need to hear, so let me slow it down, is in addition to just the curation of like, hey, I read this book, let me give you the cliff notes, or I read these 5 books and this is what I gained out of it. What people really, I think, are drawn to are strong points of view or perspective. So like you and I both read Gary Vee. I read it, you read it. But you're going to read it with your lens and I'm going to read it with my lens. Or I'm going to watch the same speaker on stage and I'm going to get something totally different. And you're going to watch the same speaker and get something like, what's your unique perspective on that same body of content versus Veronica's perspective? And I think that's the part that people forget. Like, I care about how you see the world. Can you please disclose to me what you thought when you watched the movie? Yeah. That's the part.
Yeah. First of all, it's so true. And like, a great example of that is like, people on LinkedIn, they post quotes, all these different things, right?
Yeah.
Quotes that have been used hundreds of times, before, thousands of times before, hundreds of thousands.
Yeah.
But at the same point though, you can do that. But the way to make it valuable and for people to see who you are is if you put that quote up, then you give your perspective on why that resonates with you.
Yes.
So it's like, you can take quote unquote other people's content, curate it, and bring that forth to other people. But then if you put your perspective on it, that's how you differentiate yourself.
Totally. Yeah. And Brendan Bouchard said that. He's like, people pay for perspective. I was like, what a good line.
Perspective. I like
that. It's so good. I mean, like, damn it, Brendan Bouchard. That's so good. I'm a curious person and I go down the rabbit hole of trying to figure things out. One of the things that I do love to compare, not to to measure, but just, I would love hearing your process and being as prolific as you are with your content. And I get this question a lot too. Like, when do you record your content? Do you do it every day? How do you put, like, people want to know the mechanics when you are a higher than average content producer of some caliber. You post every day, no?
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah, it's a lot. So I want to know, as somebody, again, I've been behind the scenes of so many personalities, so everybody has a different process that works for them. But I'm very curious, how have you been able to maintain that frequency without or with burning out? What would you advise other people to do or how they could get started? I'm just curious your process, your actual process of like extracting your genius.
Yeah, that's a good question. And the burnout piece is a real thing because posting every single day on LinkedIn,
a lot.
It takes a lot of effort, a lot of brain power. But for me, so first of all, great question. And for me, what I do and what I did at the beginning of the year, beginning of every year, is I sit down and I ask myself, okay, let's take an audit on my own personal brand. What do I want to be talking about?
Okay.
And what I do is I post 7 days a week, but I always recommend choosing 3 to 5 different categories of what you're going to post about.
Okay.
I choose 5 because I post 7 days a week, and my 5 are marketing, personal branding, self-development, hobbies and adventures is my Sunday wildcard post. And then I also do one post on investing because I love
Oh,
I love investing and wealth management, stuff like that as well. So those are my 5. I chose 5 because I post 7 days a week.
okay.
And then what I do is using AI, I generate ideas. So, okay, these are the topics that I want to post about. These are where my expertise lies. Let's generate a bunch of ideas.
Cool.
I take those ideas, I take a calendar for each month, and I slot the ideas into each day. And then from there, I know, okay, Tuesday next week, I'm going to be writing about, the top 5 tips on how to build your personal brand on LinkedIn.
Sure.
Wednesday, I'm going to talk about, a marketing case study, a success story of a client we worked with. And then from there, I know, okay, here's my content for the week. Let's start writing. And, obviously writing takes a long time. Mm-hmm. So that's something you get better and quicker at over time. Mm-hmm. But I would also love to say that, like, I think the best practice is to take a Sunday. Mm-hmm. On a Sunday, sit there, you have your content for the week, start writing it out. Like I said, that's best practice. And that's why I recommend anybody starting to write content. However, that's not what I do.
Okay.
So I still do it every day. I'm like, okay, I'm going to write a post today. So every single day I write a post, whether it's in the morning, evening. Because life is so busy, I find it sometimes difficult to find those, large chunks of hours to write.
Yeah.
But that's really it. So it's like the biggest part is topic generation or idea generation.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So
Get the hamster wheel on.
Yeah, it's a big thing. Yeah. But like if you can start off with choosing, okay, here are my content categories of things I want to resonate with my personal brand. Mm-hmm. Then you move to, okay, with that, I want to talk about, my share industry or insights on my work, the industry, talk about my life lessons I've learned along the way, talk about my hobbies, talk about a product or service I'm offering as well. And, maybe 10% of your LinkedIn posts can be promotional, talking about your products or services. You really want to avoid that. You only do it 10% of the time because people are not on there to be sold to. People are on there to build genuine connections with people.
Of course, yeah.
And that's it. Like personal branding, the whole realm of it, it's really just to get people to know who you are, know what your name is. And it's always the analogy or the metaphor of if there's a bunch of people in a room and your name gets brought up and you're not in the room, what are these people saying about you? Are they saying good things? Are they saying bad things? Or do they even know who you are? So that's the epitome of personal branding.
Yeah. And I think that's a quote from like Jeff Bezos. He's like, your brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. I was like,
exactly, right? Exactly.
Okay, so this is interesting to me. And so what you're telling me is that when I see your post on LinkedIn, I can assume that you just finished writing it? Like it's real time?
For the most part, yeah. For the most part, like it's 90%, 95% is day of. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay, so that's fascinating to me. But also, like when I ask this question to my friends and colleagues who are content creators or personal brands, or I'm just like behind the scenes in these company structures, that's always, everyone's different. Literally everyone's different. Like I had one content creator, she's like, I batch, I do it once a month and it populates the entire month. I'm like, damn, like that is so organized. I wish. I've tried all the things. I'll be honest with you. I really don't like it. The only I don't think I've ever shared this on the podcast. So maybe you'll have interest in this because I don't think I've put it out there. I think only my friends know, but obviously my team knows. So I find social media to be wildly inorganic. It's very difficult for me because oftentimes, like, just think about the process. You're like talking to yourself, watching yourself.
Yep. Yeah.
And like, I would like to think that I'm not a narcissist, so this makes me uncomfortable. So it's hard for me, and it's hard for me also to like find a little sliver of a moment consistently every single day between back to back calls or kids or this or that. Like it's just a lot going on. So what I've learned to do is I barnacle, or it's not even barnacle. It's like almost like what the cyclists do, where they will literally ride behind the lead cyclist because it takes away all of that like drafting, resistance. Yeah. What is it called? Drifting, coasting?
It's called drafting. Yeah.
Drafting. Close. Yeah. Okay. So basically I draft myself. That sounds terrible, but I do. Meaning, I will try to schedule time on the backside of something that I know will actually feed me energy or light me up.
Yeah.
So like you and I are having a podcast and I'm such a relationship oriented person. So like I'm having a lot of fun. This is fun for me. And then as soon as I get off would be a really great time to ride that momentum, to draft
Yes.
that
Yep.
momentum. Um, the other thing that I noticed that we start to do, so what we do now internally, when you see my spicy takes, even in the writing of my vitamin B newsletters every week, is every single Monday I meet with my team. Now, some people are like, that's a very expensive phone call. It is. Like, if you really think about it, I have my video editor, I have my content writer,
Yeah.
and I have my designer, and I have my marketing coordinator. That's 4 bloody people,
Yeah.
including me. How expensive is that 30 minutes? Extremely expensive, right? When you tally everybody's time up and you pay for that time.
Yep.
But the whole point of that 30 minutes is we call it the rage fest. I literally call it's V's rage fest. And the goal is just to get pissed off. I don't know how else to put it. Like,
Right.
like legitimately. So like if we're talking about Kim Kardashian's campaign with Nike and her huge blow up body in Times Square, like we're all pissed off. It's bothering us. It bothers us deeply that Nike with its core values would partner with something like this. And so we're talking about it, right? Or we talk about not necessarily all things that piss us off, but just things that like we have thoughts. There's thoughts. And it's a think tank and we're all like throwing around. I used to record it. Like I used to have my like Canon camera and record it. And if you'd see clips, it'd be from that perspective. It's because I was recording myself while having this meeting with my team. Now we're trying a new different content medium, which is like we're not using the actual clips or moments from our internal meeting. What I do is as soon as the meeting is done and I am high, I have 30 minutes blocked before anything else in my life to literally prop up the green screen or prop up anything that I would need. And I'm then pulling out my camera and talking to myself or like talking to the camera as if I had just talked to Heather and Emily and Alicia and Aaron, as if I had just had the conversation.
Gotcha.
And then I give it to Aaron, who's our video editor, and he puts all those cool B-roll type of stuff behind my spicy takes. We're trying that. But I try to do that apart from my meeting with the team, and it sucked. The energy was so low because again, I couldn't get the hamster wheel going.
Yeah.
So now we attach content creation time by myself to team time when I'm already drafting the high. Does that make sense?
It does. Well, so you're telling me that currently in this moment, so after you have those internal calls, but right after that, the energy's still flowing. You jump right into that content creation, right?
Yeah.
First of all, I love that because some days you're sitting there, you're like, oh my God.
Yeah, it
First
sucks.
of all, it's hard to get that your mind going. But if you can come from a place of like already high energy and take that, I think that's an awesome approach.
Yeah, so that's what we're doing now, and it's working really well for me. So, like, I guess I'm really appreciative that you shared your process. I'm sharing my process because anybody who's listening to this conversation, one, you have 2 people who are consistent in our content output, and we do it differently. Both of our pieces of content has led to incredible business opportunities. So, like, I guess the biggest advice, like find the thing for you, like however you can self-produce, because that's what it is. I think that's what's so hard about social media is like, how can I simultaneously be the star of the show and be my own producer?
Yes. Yeah.
Right. And that's what's really difficult. Where like in the entertainment business, stars don't produce. You have a producer for the star.
Yeah.
And I think when you're a content creator in the 4 walls of your padded office, it feels like you're crazy because you're trying to be all the functions.
Yeah. But man, I think that's true for a lot of people starting out, right?
Oh,
Like eventually you can hire people to help,
totally.
produce videos, do all that stuff. But yeah, starting out, it's like it's all going to be you, whether that's
Totally.
organizing it all, even if you record videos. And first of all, I love that you mentioned that you used to record on the side because actively I have my phone recording me, and I'm going to put this and cut it up into clips, which is awesome, right? Like this is another approach to just how do you build content within things you're already doing. Right?
Exactly. Yeah, double dip for sure.
But yeah, that's the biggest thing is like I don't know. It speaks volumes to me.
Let's talk about what got you on this podcast in the first place, which was your strong take on how employees should not shy. While employed, it does not mean you should not be investing in your personal brand equity. Man, do people get hung up on this? They think, like I remember when I worked at Boss Babe, one of our employees scheduled a meeting with me, and I was like, she's like, She was one of the AS players.
Okay.
And so she scheduled a meeting without telling me what it was. And I was like, oh shit, like, please don't quit. Like, I was like, no. It's like, a blank meeting. I'm like, oh no. Like, we get on the call and I'm like, we love you. You're doing great. What the heck? Like, please don't leave. And she's like, I just wanted to ask for just permission if I could have my own Instagram account. I was like,
Yeah.
What are you talking about? We work at Boss Babe. It's an Instagram account company that has like 3 million followers. What are you talking about? Of course you can have it. She's like, I know, but I just didn't want it to be perceived like as a conflict or a distraction or make you guys second guess my loyalty. I'm like, what? Like I couldn't even understand her point of view, but she was terrified. She was scared that there would be negative consequences for her putting out her own content on her own little baby Instagram account, that she wanted to ask permission ahead of time.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is so common. So tell me your strong point of view, your perspective on why absolutely the hell not employees should be investing in their personal brand.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. It is super common.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is, people might think it's a conflict of interest. The employer might think, okay, if they're building their personal brand, what's going to come of that? Are you going to get an opportunity somewhere else? But the reality is that both people benefit from this. So the employee and the business.
Mm-hmm.
So the employee, for example, if they want to start building their personal brand, one thing is they're going to get a lot more exposure to their name. More opportunities are going to come their way, whether it's, hey, do they want to speak on podcasts? Again, not everybody wants to do that, but more stuff like that's going to come your way. And it's also a stat that came out recently that employees are much more likely to get promoted when they have a strong personal brand. They're much more likely to get better projects at work, move up the ranks if that's what they obviously want, when they have a strong personal brand. And it also, some people want to let people know and teach people things. And if an employer kind of confines that on somebody, and they're going to be much less likely to be happy in their workplace. So it's actually reported that employees are happier when they have an ability to build their personal brands on the side.
Like a creative outlet.
Yeah, so it's like, they're happier, they're moving up in the company, they're going to start probably make more money if they have a strong personal brand and keep building that. So there's a lot of benefits to the employee. But then on the flip side, you look at the employer and they're like, how does this benefit us? But at the same time, like if you have, actually business in general, the trend is that, and you probably know this, it's that people want to buy from people and not from businesses. So if people are just seeing the corporate logo on their posts, there's no faces behind it. It's hard to build trust. So if you have your employees building their personal brands, talking about content, eventually talking about the company, all these different things. One, it's more awareness to the company. Two, people gain trust 10 times faster in people than they do in corporate brand.
Totally.
Corporate logos. So you're going to bring awareness to the company. Sales are going to increase. People are going to want to work there who are high quality people because they see, these people allow their employees to build their personal brand. I'm seeing a little glimpse into the company of the people who work there. So they're going to get more quality candidates as well. So there's a huge case on both sides as to the benefits. So
you are so right. So listen, it's been a minute since I've sent a resume to anything. Man, has the game changed. Oh my gosh, right? So I was talking to somebody who's like, I'm looking for a new job. So I was like, well, let's start clicking on some of these job, postings and stuff like that. First of all, they can ask you, you technically legally don't have to disclose, but they're like, what's your gender? What's your race? Are you a protected veteran? Do you have a disability? I'm like, oh, damn. Back in my day, none of that. Absolutely not. So now they ask you and it's voluntary information, but part of me is like, well, if you don't answer it, then it's going to be perceived negatively. So of course you're going to answer it. Anyways, that's beside the point. But in the submission, not only are they asking for a resume, they're asking for your cover letter. Every single one that I clicked on, everyone's asking for your LinkedIn profile.
Yep.
Everyone. And your website. I was like, oh shit. Yeah. Like now it's not just the pretty CV or the strong cover letter. No. Do you have a personal website? Do you have a LinkedIn profile? Because they're going to look at it. They're going to stalk you. So First of all, let me back up what you're saying. If you want to advance in your career, statistically speaking, you'll get more money by jumping jobs and staying in a job. That's just a fact. It's
Correct.
sad, but it's true.
Correct.
So if that's the case, and you know that every 2 to 3 years it's time to move to get that next 20, 30 grand plus, then you better be ready to start submitting your entire personal brand, because it's not just a resume anymore. So that's number one. Number two, while you were talking, I was playing kind of devil's advocate, which is a terrible expression, but it's like, well, that makes sense for people who are in client-facing roles. So if I'm in sales, I'm in marketing, I'm in any type of client interaction, it would be absolutely wise for me to have some level of personal brand effort, so that when they're talking to their sales rep on Monday, they've already read maybe a couple different LinkedIn posts from Scott, and they like Scott before they even get on the call with Scott. Totally. So I'm thinking, if you're listening to this podcast, you're like, well, that's not me. I'm not in sales. I'm not client facing. I don't need an external personal brand. May I lovingly argue with you? Even if you're not in a client facing, public facing role by function, even if you're a behind the scenes category role, an engineer, customer service, whatever, fine, take out the word personal brand. Doesn't suit you. Let's substitute that with the word internal reputation. It's the same damn thing. Like personal brand equity, internal reputation equity. That's really what we're talking about. Like, you want, back to what you were saying, who are you? What do they say about you when you're not in the room?
Yep.
You can be intentional with that effort. You can be intentional with that crafting. Like, your internal reputation internally, even if it's never seen outside of the walls of the company, still gets you advancement, still gives you better projects, better opportunities, better roles, if there's some bloody effort behind the reputation. True?
Very true. Yeah.
Yeah, I get really fired about this shit.
No, that's very true. Yeah.
I just think it's so applicable for all. I don't care if you're a student. I don't care if you're a 30-year vet. I don't care if you're in a public-facing capacity type of function or you're not, whether it's personal brand efforts, internal reputation. I genuinely believe there are very little negatives at this point in this generation and this time in the workplace that doesn't benefit from you being vocal about your perspective and point of view.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, that absolutely rings true. I think you nailed that on the head. So again, this personal branding, like everything, it's the external, but like I said, the internal in your organization, but even people around you, family, friends, whatever, but mostly the organization. If you're not a client facing person, you're still going to be building your brand internally, and those people are going to see you in a higher light, potentially, obviously. And then, like you said, you're going to move up quicker in the company, have a better reputation, and probably get better projects, all these different things as well.
And money.
Money is a big one, obviously.
Like, that's what you, I mean, have you seen the cost of some stuff lately? Like, at the end of the day, like, we need to grow, not just in responsibilities, but we need to grow financially with our contributions in the world. If not, like, and this is where you and I, personal development is really important to me as well. Like, if you're not growing, you're dying. Like, I've heard those things too. Can we talk about burnout? Because there is such thing as content creator fatigue. You seem to be a multi-creative teacher, founder, marketer, all of the, like, how do you hold all the spinning plates without passing out?
That's a very good question.
How do you regulate your nervous system? Legitimately.
Yeah, that's a very good question. So, burnout's real. Obviously, you've probably felt it, and multiple other people have probably felt it.
Yeah.
I felt that a little bit this week. Like earlier this week, I was like, oh my God, my brain is done. I need to work, my job today. I need to, teach for 3 hours tonight, and then to do the same thing tomorrow night as well. But I think for me, like, some things I do is, first of all, I like to do adventures on the side with my girlfriend, with my partner.
Yeah, your shared experiences.
Yeah, exactly. We love, every couple of weeks, love to do something really cool.
Fun.
We travel, once or at least once a year. We do all these things that excite us, that change things up. But then my mindset is like, okay, all this work I'm doing, it's allowing me to make more money. It's allowing me to have that money. And what the result of that is more freedom to do these things as well.
Sure.
So it's really, for me, it's a mindset thing of like, okay, this week I'm feeling down. This week I'm feeling overwhelmed, but it's temporary. And it's allowing me to do awesome things in life on the side as well. So for me, it's less of like, okay, you know, I meditate today. First of all, I love reading. My meditation is sitting there on a Sunday and just reading. But outside of that, a lot of it is just like, okay, let's take a step back and look at the bigger picture. Like all this stuff is worth it in other areas.
Zoom out. This is interesting to me. This came up for me yesterday. So what I've noticed with myself in part of trying to get back on the proverbial horse or recover my nervous system from good or bad, just like the recovery. So like, you know, athletes have off season. Entrepreneurs don't. We don't have off season. Like we don't. I can't even count my maternity leaves as off season. We don't.
No.
But I also am, it's interesting. People have even asked me like my book writing process, and everybody's different. I was physically incapable of writing a single word sitting where I'm sitting right now talking to you. My brain didn't do it, wouldn't do it. Nope. This was like my master, this is like my commander-in-chief seat. This is where I talk to clients, I'm consulting. Like this is, I do all the other things. For whatever reason, the writer identity did not come to play here. But I don't know how it happened, just one of those God things, but like I just kind of had that prompt to like go sit in the deck in our patio in North Carolina, and it was like, oh, it's so lovely, the weather. Like, oh, I'm gonna sit outside today. And all of a sudden it was like, I'm like, what the hell?
Started to flow.
So I wrote that book with my co-writing partner, Emily, who helped me. If not, it never would have happened. But like the two of us had all of our meetings. I would do all of my research, all of my stories, all the things that I wanted to include. It only happened literally in the patio. Even when it was bloody hot in August, we did it. I did it sweating in the patio. For whatever reason, changing the container led to the open. But that's also been true for nervous system regulation. When I can feel burned out or dysregulated deeply, I got to get out. And sometimes it could be to go on a fun adventure. Sometimes it's just not. Sometimes it's literally just to get the hell out of the office, right? Or just like there's something really interesting when you change your scenery or you're moving your body, magical things will happen. The other thing that this came up yesterday, right before I did my speaking part at UNC, they had on Zoom a former student who now is on his like fourth startup. I mean, he's crushing it, but he hasn't taken a break. And there was a young woman who asked him, like, how do you deal with, you know, entrepreneur burnout? And I didn't really like his answer. It's fine. But I was thinking about like, how would I have answered that? I do think there is an energetic difference. The content creator fatigue, often I can tell it's coming when I hear my clients or my employers or my friends say things like, I have to do it. I really should do it. I got to do it. Versus I want to, I'd like to, I choose to. So burnout will very quickly follow the I have to, should to, got to, don't really want to, but need to. Versus I want to, I like to, this is fun. So just temperature check, watch your sentiment towards your activities, because one will foster burnout wicked fast is what I've experienced before.
Well, also, I a couple pieces, but I love one of the things you said where it's like change your environment. Because right now, the seat you're sitting in, all of your work is done there.
Totally,
So it's like you associate that room or that area
with seat work. Right here.
So when you're sitting in that chair, you're like, okay, work time, and that starts to go through your head. But when you remove yourself from that, you sit outside in the sun, whatever that may be. It's less of like, okay, work. It is now more, okay, let's get creative. Let's sit back a little bit, and it almost frees up your mind to do those.
Totally, literally, physically frees up my mind.
So I love that, So the burnout thing though is like all of this, and I worked with a coach in the past, and he brought up something that was super beneficial, and he called it, which you may have heard, but the 7 levels of why.
Yes, I have heard this.
And it's, okay, he's like, for example, like if you're doing content every single day on LinkedIn, that's going to be a big challenge. The payoff is incredible. But you're like, some days you're not going to want to do it. And you got to think about your why. Why am I doing this? Well, one, and you keep going on the list. It's like, one, I want to make more money. Well, first of all, why do you want to make more money? Because then I can, have more time in my day. Well, why do you want to have more time in your day? Well, then it's like, so I can be with my family and friends more. Why do you want to be with your family and friends more? Because I can build these amazing relationships with them. And the result of that is with my kids, they can live better lives as well because they had, father. I don't have kids, but I'm just speaking theoretically.
Not yet.
Yeah, not yet. Yeah. But it's like this 7 layers of why as to why you're doing something. So instead of, as you said, Veronica, instead of being like, I have to do this, it's like, I'm choosing to do that because I know my why so strongly. And I know every single layer of that, whether it's, to benefit your family, to all these different things. You've got to have that deep why. And if you have that, it turns from I have to I'm choosing to, or I want to.
Yeah.
And that stuck with me big time when I heard that from him.
That's a good one. Yeah. So I have heard this exercise, the 7 levels deep or 7 levels why. I've heard different names for it, but it's essentially the answer to your first question is then framed in the second question. So it forces you to go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper.
Yep.
Until you're like the basement of your subconscious crying. You're like, why am I like, how do we get here so fast? Because your answer is always still surface level. Your conscious gave me your answer.
Yeah.
We got to go in the basement of really what's going on, right? It's a great exercise. Can I just say thank you so much for like coming and shooting mentally ping-ponging around this topic. Again, the timing of it is so perfect because I just had this class yesterday. I'm like, I wish I could almost like co-teach it with you.
Yeah.
As kind of the fun thing that we do on the podcast, because I got to ask you all my selfish questions. And just for everybody, just so you know, I don't ever actually submit my questions to the guests before they come. So you don't know what I'm going to ask. So you're a good sport. So I only think it's fair that you get to ask me whatever you want as the final question of the show.
Yeah. Yeah. And I actually got a good one for you. And it's not related to marketing, not related to any of this stuff, but we'll go deep here, if you will.
Sure.
So for you, throughout your life, what is one thing that you did do or one thing that you didn't do that you regretted and wish, like I said, like wish you would have done or wish you wouldn't have done in your life?
That I didn't or that I did?
Yeah, something you did do that you regret or something you didn't do or didn't.
That I could take back.
Yeah.
That's a good question because I don't want to give you the bullshit answer like I regret nothing because like I understand that that's the right answer.
Yeah.
That like there's no regrets, there's no failures, there's only lessons. Okay, that bullshit aside, I understand. I will truthfully like I'll be driving in the car with my husband and I don't get embarrassed, but I'll have those moments where I'll think about something that I said or that I did. And I will literally like make a sound where I'm like, ooh, and he'll look over. He's like, what? I'm like, don't worry about it. Like, and I'm just reflecting or I'm transported in a moment that I wish I would have played out better or I wish I would have been better in. So the first one that's coming to my mind, so we're just going to go with it. When I left a place of employment, actually 2 of them, one in Utah and one remote position that I had post-COVID or whatever. But like I wish that I would have gone out not so emotional. The first one was more of a physical like piece and it was a really shitty situation. So like I don't have regrets about leaving.
Yeah.
I think I have regrets about like being a brat about it. I was also in my young 20s, to be fair, but like I just wasn't the professional that I am today. So like that makes me cringe sometimes. I'm like, did I say that? I mean, it's not like I left like giving the middle finger out the door. It wasn't like that bad, but just again, the sass or the little, I didn't have to snap back or I didn't have to dig. I don't know, whatever. Just because they were like Michelle Obama, just because they went low, I was like, oh, I'll meet you low. So I wish I would have gone high. But the one that like really stings is the one that happened post-COVID where I left a position that I was obsessed with, that I loved. And it was only because me and one of the founders really, I mean, it was like, call it what you want to call it. It was like a divorce, so to speak. And it was wildly hurtful. And because how hurt I was, I pulled the e-brake super fast. Like I left fast.
Okay.
Not overnight, but pretty damn close. Like I was out. And I did that out of self-preservation. I did it for a number of things. Like, I know why I did it. Like, I know why my system did it.
Yeah. Yep.
Because I was running and I was running for safety, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
But in that process, I left my dream team hanging.
Mm-hmm.
And that still bothers me deeply.
Mm-hmm.
And no one has ever made me feel bad. And no, like, none of that. Like, I'm still wildly close with everybody that I worked with and that reported to me. But I wish I would, like, had I not been so emotionally hurt or blindsided or whatever, I would have given weeks notice. I would have played it out. I would have walked. It just wouldn't have been so dramatic. Like, I felt like, I'm like, what is this, Real Housewives of like online influencers? Like, what's going on here? So that bothers me because I'm like, I'm older now. I wish I wasn't so emotionally riled up. I wish I had been more even. And so that's the first one that came to my mind.
Okay. Well, first of all, great answer, and thanks for opening up about that. And I think with these things, like, the beauty in it is that, say you not cause a scene, but you were emotional on your way out in one sense, but now you look back on that, you're like, hey, that's not me anymore.
Right.
And also, I like all these decisions that you made back then, whether it's leaving the team that maybe you shouldn't have left right away, all led to where you are today.
For sure.
So
for sure. And it's interesting because it's pushed me to seek out alternative forms of personal development beyond just the like work hard, grind hard, spiel. Like, now I'm like, I started getting certified in IFS therapy, not because I plan on being a therapist, but just the more you know thyself, the more when other people's defensive parts pop up, it doesn't affect you at all. Because you're like, ooh, I see you, little protector part. I see you. And it's not personal. It's their own stuff. And so, like, had I not gone through that type of emotional whiplash, I wouldn't have sought out a more acute skills that has only benefited me 5,000 times more. So again, I take back nothing. It is what it is. And it got me here. All that can be true. But I'll be in the car. I'm like, not how I'm like, oh, damn it.
Oh my God.
So great question though. Great question. And thank you again, Brian, for being on today's Rainmaker podcast.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Veronica. Thanks for having me. And like I said, you're a quadruple threat in the business world. I aspire to be like that.
Thanks. Thanks for listening today. If you've loved what you heard, make sure to rate the show, subscribe, and leave a review. It helps us get the Rainmaker podcast in front of more passionate marketers just like you. And if you're ready to transform your marketing from buy this to be this, pick up my new identity marketing book available on my website at veronicaromney.com. Until next time, my friends, keep making it rain.